welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am your host, Willy Bragg, and we have not just one guest, but I normally have most of the time when I do have guests. We have today three guests, and we have friend of the show, Catherine Anne McClouskey. Welcome back to the show, and we have Susan Stevens, and we have Haley. Is it Haley? Haley.
Haley Felan. It's a hard name.
Okay, and all three of you ladies, please introduce yourselves. Whichever one of y'all want to go first, y'all decide among yourselves, and then we'll get to the subject at hand. So, which one of y'all want to go first?
How about youngest to oldest?
Okay,
youngest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hi, my name is Haley Felan. I am a gender fluid student currently studying at the University of Pittsburgh. My major is Japanese, and I am possibly pursuing a minor in GSWS, or Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies. I am an LGBTQ activist, and I believe strongly in our fight for democracy here in America. Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
Susan?
I'm Susan Stevens, and I'm the chair of Social Democrats USA in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm a mom of two, and I believe strongly in LGBTQ plus rights. Both my kids are on the spectrum. I think we can use the word spectrum, right? I think, and we're on the LGBTQ spectrum, yeah, and we're just all for everybody participating fully in the human experience. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your
Well,
turn.
that leaves me. I'm Catherine Anne McClouskey. I'm a founding member of Social Democrats USA, the new Social Democrats USA. I was a member of the old one, and currently I'm a member of the Socialist Party of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania affiliate of the Social Democrats, and I am a trans woman. And until my bad hip caught up with me, I was an athlete.
Okay. And ally. Willy Bragg, ally.
Great ally.
Yeah. So,
Great ally.
yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about and this is what I'm going to start talking about is the whole issue of, broadly speaking, of LGBTQ rights. I know that Pride Month has passed, and you know, and last year I've had and Catherine will remember I had a guest every week during the month of June for Pride Month, and I didn't this past year because I just my year's been a clusterfuck, so I haven't been. I would have done something, but it's just my time schedule's been kind of a clusterfuck lately. So, but what I'm going to say, huh?
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say, better late than never. And I'm going to say that when it comes to LGBTQ equality, I'm a lifelong ally, and to me, it's just I say this to everyone. I'm a simple person. It's all about equality. There's nothing crazy or extreme about equal rights, and that includes all individuals are equal inside our society, and they ought to be treated as such. And for some reason in our society, equality is considered a special right. I don't believe in special rights.
No.
I'm a socialist. I believe in egalitarianism, and egalitarianism means equality for all and spreading it as much as possible. So that's where I stand, and this is why we're here this particular evening to discuss that in regard to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, I don't know if I did send Leah Thomas an invite to tonight's presentation. I don't know if she's here or not.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are we able to see if people are making comments? If I click on comments? Oh, yeah. I see a whole bunch
Oh, wait,
of people.
can we? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I see a whole bunch of
Cool.
comments. Miguel H, Snipe Hunter.
Yep. We
Yeah.
got
Cool.
Miguel H.
Yeah.
And Snipe Hunter here. and we should have a few more people here. So yeah, just as the evening progresses, this stream came on like all of a sudden, so kind of in a last
Right.
minute situation there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and all that.
Cool.
So the Olympics is going to take place next week, I understand, and so we got this issue with the issue of equality, which should not even be an issue at all. If you believe in equality, you believe in equality, and you believe in equal opportunity. And
Right.
to me, I have no problems with anybody and everybody who wants to participate in sports to allow them to get them the chance. And it doesn't matter the sexual orientation or gender situation that exists in that regard. They should be allowed to participate. And I know we'll be like, well, you can't have a biological man involved in women's sports. But and I'm going to be to express my point. I'm going to be slightly politically incorrect for a second, just to express a point to show you that I am fully in favor of this equality. And I'm going to say that, and the Republican convention just took place, and Hulk Hogan spoke. And I don't mean this in any bad way, but if Hulk Hogan says suffer from gender dysphoria after the convention says I'm a woman, I want to participate into sports, Hulk Hogan can't do it right away. Blair White, as atrocious as her politics is, can. That's where I stand. So there's a process you got to go to. So, when you're transitioning, like Catherine says to me, there is a process you got to go through, and it's a fair process. And if you meet the requirements, there's no problem. Am I right, Catherine?
Yes, and the requirements are 2 years on cross-sex hormones. And we'll discuss Leah Thomas at length. She did that, and her times were exactly what you would expect from a woman athlete of her caliber.
Yeah, and as I say, if she meets the requirements, that's all. If she welcome back, if she meets the requirements, where's the controversy? I mean, to me, and if they really want to make a culture war issue out of this, my position is this: there's another path to not have a men's sports or women's sports. Have a sports, that's gender neutral for everybody. That's the only other way to go about it. But we can't have discrimination taking place at the end of the day, is what I'm saying. And that's what it comes down to. That's my position. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, that was something that Veronica Ivy, because when I was doing the research to write the resolution that we wrote and that the Social Democrats USA's National Executive Committee unanimously passed, Catty Ann pointed me to some really good people to listen to and to learn more about this from. And Veronica Ivy, she talked about and I think I just lost my connecting thought of what I was going to say about what she said. But she did mention, because she was interviewed, I think, by Trevor, forget what his last name is, but Trevor Noah. And he was talking about, how about just all these categories? Maybe there can be other ways to figure out fairness besides dividing people according to gender. And she says, that's a good argument to be had, but it's not this argument, I can't remember her exact words, but she was like, because this is the way it is now. And so the issue is, if you believe trans women are women, and we are women, then we should be able to compete in our category. And I know what they did to Leah was basically saying that she could compete in a trans category for swimming, but given the small percentage of trans people who are in the population, and then out of that tiny percentage, how many are motivated to become an Olympic athlete or have the ability. And so you're basically relegating them to a class where they can't compete with anybody. And as I learned from, I think both Veronica Ivy and it's geneticist Duncan Can't Die. He's got a YouTube channel. It was one or the other or both of them. They talked about Michael Phelps. And if you're going to try to be all completely fair as far as the amount of genetic advantages Michael Phelps has to compete as a men's swimmer, he would be in a class by himself and he would have never been able to compete against anybody. So, yeah. So
sounds like a separate but equal also won't work either, because I mean you can apply that to, what was it, Plessy versus Ferguson? Is that the no?
That's it.
Oh,
yeah.
Plessy Ferguson was the one that was overruled by Brown versus the Board of
Yeah.
Education.
1896, Plessy versus Ferguson. To have a trans category would sort of be implied as a new form of separate but equal, and usually
Right.
it ends up being separate, and at the end of the day sort of ended up being unequal. And
because you're just in a category by yourself, then you're not getting to join in the competition, you're not getting to participate. And and I loved what Veronica Ivy said too. She said that with civil rights, she talks about the burden of proof, and she says there are situations where, say, an individual or a group might need that their rights might actually have to be limited for the greater good. But she says then the burden of proof is on the people wanting to exclude. So like they have to prove it's really for the greater good to exclude or to limit these people's rights. The burden of proof is not on the people wanting to be included. And she says that it just simply has not been proven that that's for the greater good. It's also not proven that fully transitioned trans women, like Cathy Ann was saying, like I think 2 years of the taking the hormones.
HRT.
What?
HRT.
Yeah, HRT. 2 years. That and what they're finding is that even whether or not the trans woman has been through a male puberty, it doesn't show that the male puberty is having enough of an advantage, if any, to say that there's an unfair advantage, because it made me really think about all the different advantages that we all have some genetic advantages or disadvantages, each individual. But as long as we're going to have the categories like this, men's and women's, then everybody needs to be able to participate with their gender. And it just makes sense. And the way a lot of this came up for me, because I'm not athletic and I didn't feel like an expert in this area, but where I live in Kansas City, Kansas, we're trying to get a chapter going. We're trying, and it's kind of slow growing for us, unlike with Cathy Ann, who manages to recruit while she's dealing with health issues and being in the hospital and stuff, and she's bringing in new members, and she's already got her chapter going and everything. But for us, it's kind of slow going, and we did have somebody who joined for a while and then left. But this individual was telling me that he felt that I was being divisive, that as the chairperson, I shouldn't be as vocal as I am on social media about what he saw as controversial issues that not everybody agreed on. He's like, you should just focus on the core, what he saw as the core social democratic issues, which is like the economics, universal health care, tuition free, the things that you can get agreement from the majority of people. And I shouldn't be talking about trans rights. And there are a lot of people who maybe lean social democratic in our area, but are very like religiously conservative. But I just still felt that I needed to speak this truth. And I also knew from the people I knew on our national executive committee at that time, and now Cathy Ann's a part of it too. Everybody agreed with me on that, but then I started to realize we didn't have a formal to where it was really formally written up like in our principles and stuff. So it was time to do that. And I was so glad that Cathy Ann would jump on board and help me, and then Haley too, because I realized everybody on our NEC at that time was like cisgender, as far as I know, straight, and we have people we love who are like trans and stuff. Some of us do, but it's not the same as a first person experience. So I was just so happy that Catty Ann and Haley were willing to help me and you know, and so that it's not just somebody writing for, you know, even as somebody who has people they love writing for the community, I wanted it to really be, so I felt like it was an awesome thing that came together. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I
I
was
put a link
really
to our
happy.
resolution in the chat.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying that there's a link to our resolution in the chat.
Oh, good. Thank you, Catty Ann. I didn't think about that. So yeah, so people can get familiar with it too.
Haley,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
I was actually kind of surprised when Catty Ann reached out to me asking if I would collaborate with you on this paper, and I found that as I went through it, I really enjoy your writing. Your paper is very well researched.
Thank you.
I was extremely happy to be a part of it and helping with proper like non-binary language and making sure that your paper was inclusive. Thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being a part of that.
And thank you three for being part of that and coming up with an issue that's really needs to be addressed and properly addressed and taken care of and having it resolved so people realize later on that it's all about equality. I like what you just said, Susan, and I'm going to touch on that point about core social democratic principles and positions. Because I was catching up on Brianna Joy Gray's Bad Faith podcast this morning from a few weeks ago. I forgot the name of the professor she was talking to about Supreme Court, term limits and all of that, which that's another subject, but talking about appealing to people on the basis of economics and everything like that. And I do confess that I am a kind of a class reductionist, but while I am a class reductionist, I do believe fervently by principle that you have to address human rights. And so I'm a staunch civil libertarian in that regard. So I don't think that it's okay to be a class reductionist, but so some people be like, oh, you get too much into the social stuff, social issues. People are going to call you woke or what have you. Well, if you go get scared of that, like that individual you mentioned, they're going to end up calling Medicare for all and free college and expanding union rights as woke. Some people do already in this country. So, when there's a correct way of addressing it. I think all three of y'all did just the right thing, right blend of it, shall I say? So,
well, I don't know if anyone else subjected themselves to listening to Trump's acceptance speech. He says on the first day he's going to ban trans women from sports. First day of his administration.
He can try, and I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can legally do it, but I know that I will oppose him doing that.
There's still the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
But
there's still the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Exactly. He just can't do it willy-nilly like that. I mean, he can. Yes.
It's like an attack on literally what we were built off of. Literally, we were built off life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everybody in this country. And if you deprive people of playing sports, of having this kind of entertainment and feel good about themselves, sports is so much more than just something that people watch. Sports brings people together. There is so much that people can come together over sports. And when you exclude an entire group from that, what are you really saying other than I don't want this specific group of people to experience happiness?
Exactly.
Same argument was used against African Americans
right.
Being in an integrated team. And strangely enough, I don't even think I'm going to use a weird phrase. I don't even think some soft racists have a problem with blacks on a team today. And I use the term soft to differentiate from the more hardcore ones. But the point is, it's a problem it's not a problem. It's an issue that's been settled. And I will tell people when they think this is such a a polarizing issue. It's going to be an issue that's going to be settled over time. Same-sex marriage was a settled issue over time,
Yes.
and I don't
Right.
want to, I don't want to even be partisan about it. I will give, I would never vote Republican, but I'll give the moderate Republicans a little bit of credit recently on the, what was it, the Respect for Marriage Act, where I
Yes.
would agree with them about, making allowances for religious institutions if they're not comfortable with something. I will make allowances as a civil libertarian, but at the end of the day, they better not stop same-sex marriage from legally taking place throughout America. It's not separate but equal in that regard, but that's a First Amendment issue in that regard too.
Right.
So that's the angle I'm coming from. But the Respect for
Project
Marriage,
2025, if enacted, would ban same-sex marriages.
Yeah.
if
Oh God.
they're successful doing it, it's not a guarantee.
No.
But they'll try. But here's the thing: I don't like. I mean, and I get it. I don't think that Trump, unlike other Republicans, is as focused on these culture war issues. He'll say it to placate a crowd, and he'll just
Right.
I personally don't think he gives a shit one way or the other
No.
compared
No,
to
but
let's say Marjorie Taylor Greene.
right.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do think that him not caring gives room for people who do care far more than him. It gives space for these people to enter our Congress and to pass this terrifying plan. Project 25 genuinely has scared me to my core as a disabled transgender youth.
Well, I'm concerned about Project 25 in so
Yeah.
many areas. It is very dangerous, and especially coming from the Heritage Foundation, which is one of the most horrible organizations in this country, one of the most horrible think tanks in this country. I would say this much. Project 2025 is nothing really new under the sun. We've been subjected to this since Ronald Reagan, under Democrat and Republican presidents, little by little. I'm 55 years old, and I know that the labor movement, for example, is considerably more watered down now than it was in 1981 when Ronald Reagan was sworn in, and the country has been, we've seen the destruction of the middle class, deindustrialization of the Rust Belt state in particular, and just declining economic opportunity across the board. And when people say, "Oh, Ronald Reagan gave us prosperity," what fucking prosperity, and Bill Clinton continued that path, and Democrat or Republican, we're still living the Reagan. This is still the Reagan Revolution. We're still living under Reagan's vision of America, and Project 2025 is just another version of it. But
Yeah.
I'm not old enough to remember Reagan. I'm 19. So it's just
Lucky you.
I remember being in 6th grade and watching Trump run, and even me being a 12-year-old being so scared. Because at that time, I was publicly out as transgender, and it was a scary time for me. And just knowing that our country has been this terrifying for so long, it baffles me.
You know what's really interesting about that? Because again, I'm 55 years old, and it seemed like a decade ago. It seems like society was moving forward on that question. I mean, for a while, it seemed like society was moving forward because but there seemed to have been a shift back in attitudes in recent years, and so I share your fear and concerns. Is what I'm trying to say. So the progress that was being made is being in danger right now, and anyway, which is why we're having this discussion once again.
Right.
I think that Haley's right. Well, Trump is busy playing golf. He will appoint Michael Knowles to do something, and he's sworn he's going to eradicate transgenderism.
He did
Which
say
means
that.
Yeah.
It was at
He's
CPAC, he said,
eradicating trans
right?
people. At CPAC.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what they're obsessed with. I mean, that's what Matt Walsh is obsessed with, and Ben Shapiro, and all of them. I mean, right down to all three of them claiming that they're Second Amendment absolutists, and then all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, you can't buy firearms." Just like what the hell,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I live in Western Pennsylvania, about 70
Yep.
miles from Pittsburgh. So I'm close to the West Virginia and Ohio borders. And if I
We both
were
are.
to go to West Virginia, yeah, Haley and I hail from the same area.
Yeah, we've
If I
met
were
in
to go to
person several times.
that's right, we know each other.
Mhm.
If I would go to West Virginia, there's a law that says I have to stay 200 yards away from a school because trans people going by schools, I don't know, I guess the kids will all want to be trans. A convicted child molester in West Virginia only has to stay 100 yards away from a school.
It makes
Yeah.
me sick.
I don't get that mindset because they claim that there's influences or whatever, and I don't believe that for the most part. I mean, 99% of transgender people, I don't believe are doing this sort of thing, and so
Of course not.
this is crazy, and no child, if they're not going to suffer from gender dysphoria, they're not going to get gender dysphoria because a transgender person is around them. I mean,
Right.
No.
yeah, nobody's going to, nobody chooses to be straight. Nobody chooses to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or suffer from gender dysphoria where it's necessary
Yeah.
to make the transition. And so that people just need to realize this sort of thing, and and this trans panic that's going on. I mean, it's like it it is such high propaganda, that I hear it nonstop. All you have to do is go on these talk radio shows. That is all they talk about.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to say a big way, the reason why they talk about the children is because they want to present it like protecting the children. And
Right.
even the little piece that we added in about, well, we were in the resolution where we wrote about young people with parents' permission being able to transition with parents' permission by age 16 or by age 17 without. That was because our member Michael, our comrade Michael Modern, he was very worried. He said that he was afraid that people were going to accuse us of advocating for 2-year-olds being given sex change operations, which a lot of people don't realize. The operations that are being done on babies are not this. It's actually the ones that the Republicans want to keep happening, because I don't know
Right.
if you know that the anti-trans, the anti gender affirming care legislation that's getting passed in various states, they usually add in a carve out that for intersex babies, which in the intersex community is opposed to this. They're like Interact, I believe, they're like really saying they would have rather no surgeries be done on them, that you just, if it's not a medically necessary surgery for health reasons, if a baby's born intersex, meaning not not where it's just not clear looking at the genitalia if this is a female or a male. I mean, it's kind of like not clear. Just let them, as long as it's not anything interfering with their health, just let them come to a decision whenever they want to, if there's an intervention they want or if they don't want. And but a lot of I think the medical community is still pushing for these to make the baby fit a box. That if your baby's born intersex, you have to be able to make the baby fit a box, and Republicans are really all for that. So when they talk about that they don't want to interfere with how God made you, or they don't want anybody to interfere with that. When it seems like it's only when it's like for the consensual, the person seeking the care, that they want to block, but not the infants, who will be fine, and they can decide later if they want to have anything surgically done to their body. And so I wanted to kind of cover that, but our resolution, I felt like it was getting really long as it was, so I didn't do it there. But we may maybe we can do something about that later on too, because it's like I do feel like that's a violation of human rights, and the fact that it still continues. And I don't blame the parents who maybe are just they're having a baby, they suddenly find this out, and they're turning to their medical professionals for guidance about how to deal with something that maybe they never even thought about or were prepared for. So I do feel like, we need to not have legislators pushing for this, or, we need to let or does anybody know, as far as if intersex babies are born today, is there more I know it's Interact and some other intersex organizations out there too, right, guys? Do you guys know that are linked up, where the medical professions, like the American Academy of Pediatrics, or that are getting counsel from actual intersex people on how to deal with these issues? Or do you guys know?
I don't know
68
how many
years ago,
are being.
Go ahead, Cathy Ann.
68 years ago, I was one of those ambiguous. I can talk. One of those gender ambiguous babies. And I'm sure glad that nothing was done to alter my organs. Some skin was cut away, which needed to be done for hygienic reasons. But I wonder if Ben Shapiro is going to come out against circumcision.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't know exactly how many doctors are being counseled by intersex activists. I do know, however, that there is rampant misinformation in the medical community regarding intersex infants, especially doctors violating literally. Doctors will tell families that there are significant risks to not operating on intersex infants. They will list anything from gender confusion to literal cancer and UTIs. And I am not joking. There is nothing that these families can really do outside of turning to their doctors or doing research outside their own. But when you're in that room and when your doctor says, hey, this child is going to have significant medical complications if you don't let me do this operation. And sometimes doctors don't even consult the parents before they do it. They just do it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not really a time where you have this moment to really sit down and do research. So doctors kind of take advantage, or maybe they don't do it unnecessarily. Like I said, there's a lot of misinformation, but good intentions don't mean anything when you have a horrible outcome that leads to, in fact, more gender confusion than what you were initially trying to prevent.
The famous John Money experiment, where he operated on a child whose penis had been burned off during circumcision, and turned that
David
person
Raymer.
into David Raymer, exactly.
He committed suicide.
Yeah. That's how well it works.
Yeah. And then John Money continued to spread this ideology that you could alter an infant's sex after, before the age of 2, which did even more harm to the intersex and transgender community.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Some of the crazy things that are said in talk radio and talk internet. Joe Rogan has gone on and on about Fallon Fox, who I'm hoping may join us, that during her MMA career, that she fractured one of her opponent's skulls with a hammer fist. She did not. The woman suffered a broken orbital eye socket, which is the second most common injury in combat sports after a broken nose.
Right.
Fallon Fox was...
Joe Rogan's a grifter, though.
Oh, yes, he is.
He's a massive grifter.
Right.
I think
He will talk conservative talking points any time of the day, 24/7, as long as you give him your money.
I think that Joe Rogan doesn't believe in anything, and if Ben Shapiro talks to him for 3 hours, he will agree with Ben Shapiro for 3 hours. And if Cornel West talks with him for 3 hours, he will agree with Cornel West for 3 hours. That seems to be the kind of person he is. I don't even think he has an ideology.
Yeah.
No.
Typical grifter.
Now, Fallon Fox, is that the one, the video I think you sent me the link to, Catty Ann, where she wrestled against a woman. I mean, she's a trans woman, right? And she wrestled against a woman who won against her, and then just kept beating on her after she's out. I mean, and the the people in charge, they just like allowed the beating to continue. So it was way beyond, and people in the crowd was just thinking, oh, this is wonderful, because this, I guess this cis woman, that the trans woman had no right to be fighting against a cis woman. And so the fact that the cis woman beat her and then just literally beat her up afterwards was like seen as so awesome. And it was just like really, yeah. And that's kind of the attitude I encounter. I guess in my community, that there are these I guess woman in particular who's just like really gets offended, like that, I'm a real woman because I know what it is to push a baby out, and I blah blah blah, and I've been through all the stuff that women have been through, and as far as things that women have been through. I mean, but everybody's experience is different. I can't
Right.
I can't say that we've had the same. I mean that I've had similar experiences to her, because to me, I guess I don't feel the least bit threatened by people being gay, or people being or a trans woman. I mean, to me that has, because to me I feel I feel privileged in that it's easy, because you just, I'll talk later, honey.
I'm glad you don't feel threatened,
Oh, yeah.
Susan, because apparently
What?
sharing a room. Apparently, we're sharing a room at the Labor Day conference. So I don't feel.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. My child wants me to point out that some cis women are infertile too, which is
Right.
true. Which is
Right,
me
right.
now that I'm 60. Because I thought
Yeah.
that was funny that they were going to make a law, the Republicans, about how you have to be ovulating to be able to use the women's restroom. And so it's like, okay, I've been through the menopause now, so I got to go to the men's room, which frankly,
Be
I'll
so
tell
for
you,
real.
I do that sometimes, because if there's a huge long line somewhere, and there's no line at the men's room, I will go and I will like knock, and I'll say, is anybody in there? And then I'll dash in and use the men's room. So it really wouldn't bother me to go use
Right.
the men's room, honestly, as long, I don't want to intrude on people, or anything,
Right.
but it's like that wouldn't be a big deal to me. But yeah, but it's kind of like, exactly, we even those of us who are cis, were only fertile for a certain window of time, and after that, are we not women according to the definition?
Do
But
you know?
Right.
Do y'all know that Blair White tried using a men's restroom one time and got kicked out of there?
I've never
Well,
had
That's
anybody
crazy.
I've never had anyone get upset with me about it.
That's
Seriously. I just get, sometimes, I don't do it that much, that it's really come up, but never had anybody make an issue of it, though.
I have a
University
friend-
of Pittsburgh, when the University of Pittsburgh changed its policy on trans students and faculty to get at my ex-husband, they decreed that you had to use the restroom of the sex on your birth certificate. So I did. Well, on my second birth certificate. And so that's the one I used. So I would go in and hitch up my skirt and use the urinal. I got a lot of comments. Most of it was like, why don't you go to the ladies' room?
right. I
And then
think they changed it nowadays.
yeah, they changed it back.
Yeah, I believe they did. But something that I did want to add is that you cannot give me a definition of a woman without like excluding women in the process. Like, you can say, oh, a woman is someone who gives birth, who has ovaries. You just excluded intersex women and infertile women.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
just so
exactly.
frustrating because they talk and they talk and they talk in these circles, and they really just want someone to listen without thinking.
And a lot of the people that are going to be hurt by this are butch women.
Right, right.
When they have these bathroom bills, a lot of women are going in and they're being accused of being men and being confronted, even by security guards.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah,
it's-
exactly. Exactly. We're getting to where we do just probably just need to have, I'm not going to say one bathroom, because I say we need more bathrooms, because everybody needs to, when we got to go, we got to go. But maybe
Right.
no more labeled bathrooms. Just, I
Some
mean, I
places,
personally don't care.
some places have a men's restroom, a women's restroom, and a gender neutral restroom. There are places that do that,
Yeah.
and that may be a good compromise and to go by. That might be a compromise.
Right.
and
That may be.
the gender
Huh?
neutral rooms usually have a changing station.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to accommodate when you walk in there.
All
Now,
of them need
Yeah.
changing stations, because any parent
yeah.
can have a baby. It's like
Right.
assuming that no dads go shopping with their babies.
Right.
It's just,
And I think
And
urinals are unnecessary regardless. I mean,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, you don't need a urinal.
Because it's
Yeah.
like you're gonna have urinal and then you're gonna have stalls for people to like, like you
Yes.
don't need both.
Yeah.
But something that I wanted to add is that when I lived in Lothrop Hall at the University of Pittsburgh, I was a part of the gender sexuality living learning community, and that entire floor that we have is entirely gender neutral. And our bathroom was entirely gender neutral. We had no issues at all. None.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
the
know
right
with the
wing is
Casey.
creating issues where there aren't any.
Mhm.
I mean, with now, look who's suffering from the trying to make uh, the Olympics gender gender compliant. Caster Semenya, who is a
Mhm.
woman who simply
Yes.
produces a great deal of testosterone, has been
Yeah.
banned from her two best events.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. They did that again? Because I thought
Yeah.
they had
She's
worked that
competing,
out
not,
for.
not in her best.
There was a ruling. I believe I would have to look back in my notes. But there was a ruling that said that she could, and then they went back on it. And there's literally no solid evidence to prove what the effect of testosterone and what its effects are in like women in sports. There was one study in 2019 that said that they had an advantage, but it was actually looked into further that that study had improper research. So
Well,
we genuinely don't know.
and what I think it was I think it was Veronica Ivy also. Apparently, there's a difference, but now synthetic testosterone, which is like what even some male athletes have been caught taking, where it's that can confer an advantage, but endogenously produced estrogen, which is just what's naturally produced by your own body, it doesn't. And there's even been, which I think I wrote in the resolution too, that there are men who produce such low testosterone that they are in the normal female levels, and they've excelled in their sport. So it's so there are men with low testosterone who are competing against men and succeeding. I mean, winning. So apparently, what our bodies naturally produce, it's not. Um, it doesn't.
Right.
At least from what they've been able to find. So yeah, oh, that's so bad about Castor. Because then they actually, I remember back when everything first came up, and they actually publicized information about her that they never should have. Yeah,
Right.
it was like all
And they
her personal stuff out there.
And they've been policing women and intersex bodies in sports and in the Olympics since the 40s. Do you guys know what femininity certificates are?
No.
No, tell us about that.
So basically, if you wanted to compete in the Olympics, you would have to go to your doctor and have your doctor sign a document that said you were a woman. And they've had variations of this going from like genetic testing to like genome testing. It's like all the way up to today, there has always been a form of control over these intersex and female bodies.
Yeah, and the geneticist that we put a link to in our paper pointed out that a lot of sports, women used to compete freely in them. There are sports in which women have an advantage. When a woman played second in Olympic figure skating, women were banned from figure skating. Women have a natural advantage in shooting sports because they have a low center of gravity. So, of course, we don't have inclusive competitions.
Yeah, it was interesting to find out that the categories actually happened because men realized that if they let women compete against them, that sometimes they were going to be beat by a woman and they didn't want that embarrassment. So that's how the women's sports category came about.
Right.
I can remember when women struggled to get into marathons. Some of the early runners in women's marathoning were bumped, pushed, elbowed, etc. by male competitors.
And I never understood that, but I get it now because they're like couldn't risk being beat by a woman.
Right,
and whereas it's not that they're trying to protect the woman from.
No.
It's not only misogyny, it's also misogyny with a combination of fragile masculinity.
Well said, Haley.
Yes.
Well, there is a lot of that going on too, because I think that in our society today, and I think this is something that's kind of a new phenomenon, where everybody's focusing on, males being quote unquote beta or hyper alpha, and you're seeing kind of like, you're kind of seeing like a culture war view of the extreme that people are focusing on these days and everything, and it used to not necessarily be that way always. Have y'all noticed that?
No,
Yes.
I think with the rise of these misogynistic people with, again, like fragile masculine men like Andrew Tate, they keep
That's what I'm talking
spewing these
about.
talking points. They spew these talking points to younger generations, more malleable generations, and that's where we see this rhetoric getting more spread. And not only with the younger generations, also with people who feel like their masculinity is threatened by women.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Tate is some of the things that he says. I mean, it is kind of alarming, and that's being considered mainstream by some people today. Just like I mean, and it's very unhealthy, and it's very and honestly, I knew somebody that was talking kind of like that 30 some years ago on a personal level, that were saying similar things to what Andrew Tate has to say. And it is all about, normalizing this sort of, I know it's a used phrase. This phrase is used a lot. Toxic masculinity. And I mean, it's just something that I think that the left needs to address to kind of so people would not give credence to people like an Andrew Tate type, because what he has to say, anybody, I would think anybody, no matter where you lean politically, would think that that's just unhealthy, just an unhealthy worldview.
Right, and it also leans.
Go ahead, Haley, please.
Okay. It also leans into incel culture. If you guys don't know what incels are, it's like an abbreviation for involuntary celibates. Basically people who have basically straight men who have such an issue getting with women that they begin to blame all of their issues and project onto women all of these issues. And it's like, I don't understand how you can't just look back the curtain and see that you're the problem.
Oh, Nick
Yeah.
Fuentes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. If he is straight. Yeah. Because there's rumors about Nick Fuentes and those that like to throw stones at glass houses. So
Right.
Why would
They-
Donald Trump? Why would Donald Trump choose Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock to give
Oh
his
my
second speech?
that's crazy.
It's a political
Y'all know-
convention. You get a former pro wrestler and a violent rap artist.
Y'all know that the grinder they were
Yes, I know about this.
Yeah, with apparently during the Republican convention that there was some problems with Grinder, and it was being focused over there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Those server overloads
Yeah,
in Milwaukee.
Yeah. So,
It's so crazy because it's all just a big act to these people. Like, we fight for genuine democracy. We fight for the rights of people who cannot fight for themselves, right? And to these people, it's just all a big joke. The country's all just a big joke as long as they get their money, they get their way, they get whatever they want. They will play to anybody's beliefs that will give them enough money.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I will say this. I think that Lindsey Graham might have had a couple of computers going on overload over there.
Mhm.
Oh, that was a strange convention.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all see the debate? The debate was embarrassing.
What with Joe Biden and Donald?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the writing on the wall for Joe Biden. Yeah, that was the writing. on
Yeah,
the
that was yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand Bernie and the squad remaining loyal to. I mean, I understand why, but I don't remaining loyal
Right.
to Joe Biden. They're going to get blamed when Donald Trump
Yeah.
wins in November. I mean,
No, I think with Harris joining the race, I think that there's a far better chance of the Democrats winning because okay, I listened to her talk this morning and her speeches genuinely sound like competent at least. Like with Donald Trump, you have him saying these claims, "Oh, we're the best in the world. Oh, we'll never lose." And Harris genuinely brings up points. Like she said, and I'm not the biggest fan of her being like a cop, right? I'm not a fan of cops. Let's make that clear. However, if they actually have a debate and she brings up the fact that she's a cop and she hunts down pedophiles like Trump, I'm just saying, if she brings up the Epstein files, I'm just saying, I think he
Yeah.
might be screwed.
Well, I am hopeful that it sounds like she is really for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Yeah.
I hope. I'm really hoping
I
that
hope
that's
so.
I'm hoping that's really true. And she
Yeah,
offended Israel by not being present for Netanyahu's visit to Congress. And
I'm all for offending Netanyahu.
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I'm hopeful. There's things I don't like about her cop record as far as what I was learning about. I don't necessarily want to. I guess because I'm
There's also a lot
kind
of
of like don't want
misinformation
Trump to
there.
win. But I'm sorry, what?
There's also a lot of misinformation on her record with the police. When people like to make the claim that she put away like a disproportionate amount of black men from marijuana charges, and that's simply not true. Out of the 1,000 people that were charged and not necessarily went to prison, only 45 of them were black. So
She was
just like the
smoking dope.
misinformation surrounding Harris, huh?
How can you send somebody to prison for possession of marijuana when you're smoking dope yourself and laughing
Right.
about it? Oh, I'm Jamaican. Of course,
Everything.
it's dope.
Well, the thing about it is that she's still a corporate Democrat at the end of the day.
True.
I know that. I know that.
And
I know we
I
all-
wish
Yeah.
Democrats, the thing that cracks me up is when people say that Democrats are too left, that they are going disproportionately left. And I'm like,
That's what the
they are
Republicans
barely
say,
centrist.
yeah.
They
I
are
know, I
barely
know.
centrist.
They're
I know.
1985 moderate Republicans. That's what they are. They're 1985 moderate.
Literally.
Yeah, moderate Republicans.
It
And-
astounds me as a leftist.
It's insulting to be a leftist and to say, and people will say, I'm a Democrat. I'm like, I'm not a fucking
I'm like,
Democrat. Democrats are too
I'm not a
conservative.
I'm not a Democrat. Maybe that's what's on my two-party system because I'm forced to put that.
If you
Otherwise,
want
I
to vote
can't
in
vote in my
primaries.
primary.
Yeah.
But like, don't call me a liberal. Don't call me a Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I basically going to do a video soon, and I co-endorsed Cornel West and Jill Stein for president. I tell people, make your choice. That's who I think that you should vote for in November. But I'm not telling people they must. That's my
Right.
recommendation for them to vote for either Cornel West or Jill Stein. And I wish they could have ran together instead of separately, but hey,
Yeah.
And I wish that I would feel comfortable voting for a third party, but in this country, we do not have a third party system, unfortunately. We are one of 2 countries in the whole world that has a two-party system, and look how well that's gotten us.
yeah,
Literally, George Washington warned us of having parties. And we
need
see where that has led us. Now,
we
George
need
Washington wasn't the best guy, but
we need to abolish the two-party system,
right.
and either run people in as individuals or have as many parties as possible. Open
I
it up.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
What we're doing right now is not working because having a two-party system, it keeps people in camps, in electoral camps, and
Mhm.
it keeps us divided in this country. And we can't have nice things like Medicare for all and
Right.
paid family leave and free college and all the other little perks that people in Scandinavia and Finland and places like that, even England, which still kind of still has an NHS, and
Yeah.
hopefully Keir Starmer's not going to he's not going to sit there and tear it down, so hopefully not. So anyway, that's my little spiel.
It's my understanding that while we're talking, the Democratic Socialists of America, another socialist organization to which I belong, is declaring itself to be a pre-party formation. Surprises me.
Well, they needed to be. A lot of people get confused about DSA, and I've been in and out of DSA in my entire life, well, since the 1990s. And the thing about it is that some people, when I was urging people one time to join DSA, oh, I've been a Democrat all my life. And I would tell them, like, nobody's asking you to leave the Democratic Party, and I'll explain that to them. Or I'll explain it to a Green Party member. Nobody's asking you to leave the Green Party. You can still join DSA. But I got some problems with DSA, but they're overall okay. I with their non-endorsement of AOC, they should have done that earlier, and for a host of other reasons too to add to it. But because I don't have a problem with punishing AOC for her bad behavior, and we're talking about somebody who was who cheerlead AOC in her early days. And Cathy Ann would tell you, I used to cheerlead AOC, as much as I did Bernie Sanders,
She made some bad faith comments about Biden dropping out of the race recently. I was just informed about that by one of my friends who's far more politically active than I am. And I believe in holding politicians accountable all the time.
What bad faith comments?
I could read off what he sent to me for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Oh, you could, or you could send it to email it to me, whichever works for you.
Yeah. Or I could send it to you on Messenger. I could send you a screenshot.
I remember her saying something about like that the people who were wanting Biden to step down were also not for Kamala or something like that. But something like that.
She ended up being for Kamala right away when Biden dropped out. I mean,
yeah, I will send that screenshot to you right now.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, and again, I think that Bernie and AOC and the squad, rest of the squad, they're scared they're going to get blamed. All right, I'll take a look. Oh, okay. Let's see.
I think Trump is telling the truth when he says he's coming for every socialist, communist, leftist person in this country. I think he knows that his MAGA forces are going to do just that.
Right.
We
It's a
need to
scary
develop
thought.
mutual aid and mass civil disobedience and things like that to deal with what very well could be fascism. January.
Yeah, well, and yeah, let's hope. Well, I do know one thing. He did say there are things about Project 25 that he was not fully on board with, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping he's going to be full of shit and not follow through with every aspect of it. So,
Right.
I'm hoping for that. But
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have some problems when they try to do, when they try to push through some of this agenda that consists of everything that's embodied in Project 25. So,
But a lot of it already has
it's
been initiated on the state level. In Tennessee, there are state troopers who hang out in front of clubs where there are drag shows. And if the performers come dressed rather than dressing at the club, they arrest them. It's against the law in
Are you
Tennessee to
kidding
appear in
me?
public. No,
No, that's true. Unfortunately, that's true. I've heard about that, and just that should be considered unacceptable as well. And
since when
yeah,
can a performer come in costume? Are they going to arrest clowns outside the circus?
Right. Right. What
yeah,
people don't understand is that drag is an art. It is performance art. It is not an agenda to try and get at somebody. It is gender as a performance.
Yep.
yep. I mean, what are they going to do? Just. I mean, are they going to go and arrest people at plays that dress us up? This
Right.
is. What level they're going to take this? I don't even think they took it to this level in the 1950s.
Well, that's the thing. They want to go back to having laws like New York City used to have, that you had to have at least two pieces of gender appropriate clothing on. You
Is that how they
couldn't
used to do that?
Mm-hmm. That's how the arrests began at Stonewall during the Stonewall fight back. They were arresting the people in drag.
Oh, okay. That's how that started out then.
Yeah.
Oh,
I always wondered that
oh,
one of the first people arrested was Dave Van Ronk, our Socialist Party comrade. And I said to him, Dave, you're cishet. How'd you get arrested at Stonewall? And he said, God damn it, nobody's going to have a riot in my neighborhood and not invite me. Words to live by, I think.
Well, wow, crazy. Just remember, just that. I guess that kind of started the modern rights. I guess that exists today, the modern civil rights movement for the LGBTQ community.
There were fightbacks previous to
riots.
Stonewall. There were fightbacks previous to that. There was the Cooper Donut riot in '59, the Compton's Cafeteria riot in '64, the Black Cat Club sit-in in '66, I think. But none of them kicked off a nationwide, let alone a worldwide movement. Whoever threw the shot glass into the bar mirror and said, I got my civil rights, that was the shot glass heard around the world. There are still pride celebrations in Moscow, despite the repression.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure to what extent, like looking into Russia today. Obviously they don't follow Iran's route of giving people the choice of execution or surgery like they do in Iran. But I wonder. I know that like my opposition toward the war in the Ukraine, Russia, some people will throw that at me. It's like, well, look how Russia treats the LGBTQ community. And I said, that's one of the things I hate about Russia. But the Ukraine ain't no better. And Bulgaria and Hungary and Poland, none of those countries in Eastern Europe, the only one that's progressive is Estonia.
Yeah.
The former Soviet Republic of Estonia.
Estonia has a more German culture than Russian culture.
Estonia has more what?
It has a more German culture than a Russian culture. The Russian Orthodox Church, of course, is very down on trans people and gay people.
Right.
And
that's where it comes from.
And
because I mean, even Catholic continental.
Outside Chechnya, Putin has tried to make Russia an Orthodox Catholic state.
Well, even continental Europe, which is predominantly Catholic, is not as repressive on LGBTQ rights as the Eastern Orthodox orientation toward the LGBTQ. Yeah, because they're a little more harsh. And that's not to say that everybody who's Eastern Orthodox are bad people or anything like that. But I know some Eastern Orthodox people who are really cool and cool with LGBTQ rights and everything. So there's that. So
our friend Ned Blevins.
Huh?
Our friend Ned Blevins. Father Ned Blevins.
Yeah, Father Blevins. Absolutely. Good example right there. Yeah. Haven't heard from him in a while. So
nor have I.
But yeah, he's down in South Carolina. In South Carolina. And there's a guy, Lance, in Minnesota. He's a convert, and Lance. Can I think of his last name?
I can't.
He's a good guy. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Goldsberg.
Maybe. He's a good guy. I always like his posts and postings and all of that. So. And I think he's Greek Orthodox.
Yes, he is.
I know that met him in one of the socialist discussion groups, and he's a big Beatles fan. That's what I know about him. So, and he loves socialism. So, there you have it.
And plays the bass guitar.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So right now is y'all have anything to add? Is there anything to add to this? Yes.
Of course. Join the Social Democrats USA.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I would encourage everyone to practice media literacy and make sure that you always find credible sources, that you do your research, and that you stay educated.
All right, and I guess what I'll do is I'll conclude because I got some things I have to do right now. But
thanks for having us, Willie.
Thank you, Willie.
And if you both stick, all three of y'all stick around. I'll talk to y'all after the show and all that. So, anyway, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment anyway. If you disagree with what I have to say, we'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to the Willy Bragg Show here on YouTube and all the other platforms that I'm on. And we'll come back again. And until next time, pardon. He's already been freed, but we need to pardon Julian Assange, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and free speech absolutism. Y'all take care. I will talk to y'all later.
Woo!
have we known each other, Willie?
Oh, hold on. I'm trying to get the music. For some reason, I'm having trouble.